welcome to Free Cheese episode 535. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey, hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Episode 535 is Console Ranking 3. Today we are closing our three-part console ranking series with 10 final additions to our list of consoles. We will share a bit of background on each platform, talk about its unique features and library, our personal experiences with them, and of course rank them on our official console list. Before we dive in, I'd like to know, Matt, Mark, which console, of any, do you think was the most innovative?
Innovative.
This can be anything we're ranking today, anything we've already ranked, anything and everything is on the table.
My first gut says the Wii.
Wow.
It's the motion control thing, and it worked. It wasn't.
It did.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
There's improvements they did after the fact and VR stuff after the fact, but I think without the Wii, I don't know if VR is a thing today.
There's an easier road to VR for sure.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know why the thumbs down thing keeps popping up while we're talking about it. I don't disagree with you.
That's weird. Maybe I have the wrong definition in my head, but the Super Nintendo.
Oh, I like that answer.
I guess it's because of all the different peripherals that it had. It had the multi-tap thing going on. It had the Super Game Boy attachment. You had the Super Scope. You had the mouse controller for Mario Paint. Just a lot of different stuff like that, and then still throwing in having Mode 7 as a thing to mess with all the sprite work and stuff. And the FX chip, even though it's very primitive, was still something,
for that time, unlike anything else that was,
Yeah, it's crazy that even though a lot of their peripherals didn't really go far outside of the games that were made for it, not really other games like Mario Paint were on the Super Nintendo, I think there's only maybe one or two games that you would use with the Super Scope that I can think of. It didn't really go beyond that, but yeah, there was a lot you could do with that little system that I just didn't really realize till now.
I won't even go down the 32X and Sega CD line. I feel like that was the opposite of.
I was gonna mention that.
No, it was poor planning. I think they're cool things historically, but
yeah,
it's just a weird.
It's a good idea.
32X more than I think the Sega CD was something, but.
And I shout out to GameCube as well. Just having the Game Boy Advance connectivity with a lot of their games.
I think that was really neat. I think that was crucial.
Yeah.
Forward thinking, especially knowing kind of how things were, especially a decade ago when things kind of started to get the more widespread interconnectivity, transfarring, etc. Yeah. It
was good stuff.
I would be remiss if I did not talk about the Sega Dreamcast at this point.
Sure.
I mean,
same wheelhouse.
The internet being right there, baked in, having some of the first online
Xbox
console video games, huh?
First Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't die. No, but I mean, yeah, the Xbox team directly looked at the Dreamcast as, well, let's just make that, but make it, the next whatever. But man, the VMU is super cool. I've been obsessed with that thing, especially in the last week. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of cool things in the Dreamcast. I think the Xbox right in line. 360 though, with because 360 obviously wasn't the first online console, but it was the first one that made it just easy for everyone to have access to that stuff. And I think that was another big
it was like ecosystem.
Yeah,
for the first time.
I like for the DS, how like some games, if you wanted to do multiplayer, you only needed one cartridge. Everybody else could just ad hoc in.
Yep. A really, really cool feature. One more just kind of opening question before we jump into our ranking. Which console was missing one game that might have changed its course? Commercially changed its course, or just made you a bigger fan of it? I know it's a weird question, but I think about the episode we did a few years back where we talked about Pokemon releasing on the Game Gear and what it might have been like. And I feel like if the Game Gear had a Pokemon, what could the Game Gear have become?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something along those lines. Is there a platform or something that, like, you know, was just missing something? Like, I always felt like it would have been neat to see what Metroid would have looked like on the Nintendo 64.
Okay.
I think another one, the first system we'll talk about here in a minute, is the Sega Saturn. But like, had that had a proper Sonic game, what would the life had been of that? You know what I mean? Matt's vigorously shaking his head no.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. PlayStation really needed Knights. Talked about it last week, but I don't know. Trying to think of like exclusive, but I don't know. Everyone kind of. I don't know. I guess there's always that real, weird world where, like, what if Final Fantasy VII stayed the course on the 64? That's more like a what if. I don't think like the 64 needed 7 more than the PlayStation needed it, but like, what's that world look like where that doesn't happen?
No, I think that's an interesting timeline too. Because the 64 did not have many RPGs.
Not like the classic ones, at least.
Yeah, no, I mean, it lost all that Square stuff. Immediately jumped right to PlayStation.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if had Square stayed. There might have been a Super Mario RPG too.
Yeah,
could have had Geno in polygon form.
Could have had Geno in Smash way long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I think PlayStation's doing fine now, but they don't have a marquee shooter still.
No, yeah, I mean, if Halo had ended up on,
or Killzone took off, but Killzone never really took off. But still, like this, it's just weird. Like today, like at least, I mean, Halo's a little bit doesn't quite have the.
It's muted.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if Halo Infinite 2 came out, I bet you like excitement would stir back up again.
Sure.
Cautious optimism at least. But I don't know. Like, there's nothing first party. Like Mag 2 is not going to get me excited.
Man, how crazy would it be if Metroid Prime 4 existed?
That would be neat and different. My gosh, yeah.
Dumb as that is, Nintendo even has a shooter, Splatoon.
Yeah, true. These auto reactions on video are just gonna keep rolling tonight. Well, let's roll ourselves into the final round of console ranking. As we start this episode, You can check out, if you're looking at the blog post for this episode, you can view the current ranking, but I will also read it here for the listeners. From bottom up, number 20, Virtual Boy. Number 19, Xbox One. 18, Game & Watch. 17, WonderSwan. 16, Game Boy. 15, Sega Master System. 14, Sega Game Gear. 13 is PlayStation Vita. 12 is Game Boy Color. 11, PlayStation 3. 10, the PlayStation Portable. Number 9, Nintendo Wii. 8, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. 7, Xbox. 6, Sega Dreamcast. 5, Game Boy Advance. 4, Xbox 360. Number 3, the PlayStation. Number 2, the Nintendo 3DS. And number 1 is currently the PlayStation 2. We've got 10 more to go. Let's jump in and see where they end up. Number 1 on our list, the Sega Saturn. This was the beginning of the end, right? It's sad to say it, but, it just... I remember, I've told the story time and time again, but I remember to this day going to a kid in my class's house who had a Sega Saturn, and I said, "What is that?" Because the controller looks like a Genesis controller to an extent, just like weirdly shaped. I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a Sega Saturn." And I was like, "What?" Like, my mind melted, had no idea what it was. And I was like, "Let me play Sonic on it." And he's like, "There's no Sonic." And I was like, "What do you mean there's no Sonic? Where's the Sonic game?" And then, of course, I read about it in magazines. And
let me show you Nights in the Dream.
No, thank you. Keep your Sega Saturn. It's unfortunate because now, as recent as like a year ago, I had a dream where another dude I knew had he had a cart, like a media cart, like they'd roll out the TV in elementary school. You know what I'm saying? And you'd watch movies in class. The whole media cart filled with Sega Saturn console and peripherals and everything. And he was like, "Hey man, do you want this?" And I was like, "How much?" And he's like, "No, I don't need it. If you just had it, you can have it." I had this whole like Sega Saturn stuff gifted to me. So even now, I dream about it, and I wish that Sega had a different fate, but unfortunately it didn't. I have, however, explored a good bit of its library now here in this year 2023, and I do think there's some stuff to explore. You guys feel free to throw anything out if you've jumped around, messed with any Saturn stuff.
I don't really know the Saturn catalog that well. I mean, I know some franchises, but I don't know like the entries specifically. Moi.
This was definitely it was prior to, I think, Sega going crazy. Like, Sega and the Dreamcast, they started a whole suite of development teams that really got creative, and that's where we got stuff like Jet Set Radio and Rez, Samba de Amigo, like all of that whole era of Sega. It was a little bit before that, but Saturn did start to flirt with bringing arcade ports to home. So like Sega Rally is a really, really cool Saturn game on the platform. Vampire Savior, aka Dark Stalkers, was on the Dreamcast. Was on the Sega Saturn. I think that was a hot hit. This, funnily enough, the thing that everyone always kind of looks at the Saturn as where it failed is the PlayStation went full 3D and the Saturn said, we're going to keep doing really good 2D. And when it came time to make 3D stuff, it was not as easily capable or easy to develop for. But one interesting entry, I think, is Symphony of the Night, Castlevania, because it was developed for the PlayStation and then ported to the Saturn. And a lot of the cool things that the developers did when making it for PlayStation to like take advantage of the 3D hardware and do things with 3D or with 2D, they were not able to do on the Saturn. So you end up with this weird version of it that ended up getting more features and like a secret room. And it's weird, but it's still fun to play. Sonic R is a pretty dope racing game. Mark, you've played that, right?
Yeah. I played the PC version. I don't know if it's much different from
I think it's
Saturn
port.
But I, as hard as that game is, I actually enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, it is not easy, but yeah, fun racing, great music, really great music.
Yep.
A lot of really good fighting games on Saturn. One that stands out is Asuka 120%. Just a good time, good fighting game. Speaking of 3D, there's Panzer Dragoon. Got its start there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I was going to shout out Guardian Heroes.
Yeah, that's the follow-up to Gunstar Heroes from Treasure, which it still has that kind of like side-scrolling action thing, but you can now like move in multiple planes.
Yeah, and it eventually got ported to Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah, it was on 360.
Which is cool too, but it's funny because my first like taste of that series was the one on Game Boy Advance. So they had Advanced Guardian Heroes, and I didn't know that like a lot of the characters that you were fighting were main characters from Guardian Heroes. So it was kind of nice to visit back and just see like kind of where it all came from.
Yeah. Baroque, I've not played all the way through. I've like started it, but it's got a really good English translation now from some fans. But Baroque is a really wild, scary, weird, cool game. Shin Megami Tensei had its Devil Summoner series started there in Soul Hackers. And I think that's like one of the coolest. I don't know, man. Soul Hackers is one of the best flavors of video games you can taste. Let me tell you something. Astal, I don't know how to pronounce that one. I've never said it correctly. That's a nice little platformer, very colorful. Magic Knight Ray Earth, another good time. Bulk Slash is a cool mech game. Another one that got a fan translation that's pretty. Not even just a fan translation. They fully localized it. Just a bunch of fans got together. They translated the text in the game, but they also got voice actors to come in and do voice acting for.
That's a cool
project.
I like that.
One more fighting game, Groove On Fight. It's just weird and cool. I like the art of it a lot. Cleopatra Fortune, another arcade port that's a lot of fun, puzzle game. And then the last one that I've not spent enough time with because it is not localized. It's called Cyberdoll. It's a game where you play as a robot or cyborg, and every fight you get into, you target different parts of your opponent's body, and then those pieces fall off, break off after the battle, and then you can collect them and start attaching them to yourself to upgrade. It's a really weird, cool, kind of dystopian RPG.
Can't forget Burning Rangers.
Oh man, I did forget Burning Rangers, but you're right. Great music.
Hell yeah.
I've not finished that game. I need to play more of that one too. But I love that Saturn had the 6 buttons. It had the 2 triggers. I think the Japanese controller has great colors.
Yeah.
I think the console itself is a handsome looking little piece of tech. But yeah, ultimately it never quite made the mark that it needed to. I still like it, and I'm having a lot of fun revisiting its library.
Yeah, it had a lot of sleeper hits on there, but I think outside of Sonic Jam, like not really having your main boy on there kind of also shot itself in the foot.
It did.
So I think I had a similar situation where my friend had it, and I was like, "Can you play Sonic on here?" And they're like, "No," and I was like, "All right, well, then never mind."
Yeah, bye. I'm good. Let's rank this thing. I'm going to throw it out there just based on my experience with it. I feel like it goes in between. Oh man, no, I'll put it above. I think it goes above Game Gear, below Vita.
Okay.
I'm not
I don't
going
hate
to
that.
Any higher? Do you think?
Nah, I wouldn't.
All right, we're gonna throw it right in there with the Sega sandwich.
Also known as a Sega Sammy.
That's it. And we will move right into our next platform, PlayStation 4.
Ooh.
It's also one I don't have a lot of experience with.
You don't have? Is that what you said?
No. Well, it all started when Jack Tretton pulled out his huge dong on stage at an E3. And it kind of just had upward trajectory from there, maybe, in my opinion.
It's called an erection.
That, but for me, it started way before that. Like, it started for me with the tail end of the PS3 being really good. Like,
after the PSN outage.
Yeah, well, it was already kind of on a swing up. The PSN outage definitely hit it a little bit hard. But the PS3 kind of ended strong. And that was when the Vita came along, and I feel like my hype for PlayStation was at a pretty high point at that time. When the PS4 got announced, it was like February of 2013. I mean, it was rad. It was the first console that we covered on the Free Cheese. And it was just kind of like, okay, this is finally doing what we needed to do. Because it was going to launch with everything that the Xbox One wasn't launching. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, not only was it already like an impressive next console, but also like just the
kind of cut some bullshit out.
Yeah, the contrast that it had to both the PS3 and the Xbox One. I think, it was a lot of people graduated from the 360 to the PS4 naturally. PS4 first launched here in North America, November 15th, 2013. Let's run through some games. Gut reaction when I say, what's your favorite game on PS4? What's the first thing you think of, Matt?
Whoa.
You thought of a game right there.
Uncharted's coming to mind.
4?
I don't know. Probably.
It would have been. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4 was the only one on. Yeah, duh. Yeah.
Mark, gut reaction. What's your...
The Last Guardian.
The first thing I thought of was Bloodborne. I don't know that it actually is.
Oh, yeah. That should have been.
This whole time I'm thinking, I was just waiting for it to be called just the Bloodborne
That should have been
system.
my answer.
I mean, it is the Bloodborne system, right? Like, it was that. But it was also, like, this was, for me, in addition to the Vita, like, a huge entry point for indie games to make their way onto console. It was the second, like... This was, like, the silver age to the 360's golden age of indie stuff. But this is where, like, everybody who saw the success that like Meat Boy and Braid and all of those games had on 360, everyone was like, "Oh wait, we can do that too." And you had the right people at PlayStation making those things happen as well. Which
isn't the Vita's out at this point already, and it's already indie darling. So it's kind of just Sony kind of already had that partnership kind of going on with all those indie devs, and just kind of carried.
Well, a lot of the crossplay stuff was happening. Mm-hmm. Like, you had that. You had the PlayStation Blogcast always pulling these developers in and promoting their games. Like, it was very, very, very indie friendly. But to that end, like, stuff like Spelunky stands out to me as like in as big of a way as stuff like Monster Hunter World. Like. We talked last week about Hitman and how good that was, but Hitman stands out as a solid.
Could definitely almost catch your system on fire if you.
Oh yeah, that thing was a jet plane At the end there, playing The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, it was
definitely a jet plane ready for takeoff at any moment.
Yeah, I like a lot of games that I would play on a PS4 were already on PC, so like I'm trying not to count those when I think of stuff that I played, because a lot of it I was just replaying on a PS4. And I was late to the game because I only got it because everyone was playing Overwatch, and they wanted me to play, and I bought that and Doom the same day.
Yeah.
And Doom I was really enjoying. Overwatch I fell off really really damn quick, but I had an unfortunate console because didn't matter what I was playing, it would just shut off. Because it would overheat or something. Like it didn't have a good heat sink or something like that in it. And so updating was a nightmare because it would never restart. It would always just stay shut off. And then I would have to like wait for it to cool off, turn it back on, try to like it's a gamble. So it was never an easy process. And you could never put it into rest
mode properly too, right?
Yeah, like this thing was a nightmare. And like I didn't do it. I never dropped it, never anything. It was just like on the entertainment unit.
That one of 100,000 units.
But then I learned, like, I wasn't the only one with that issue. Comes to find out it was that specific type of PS4, which was the Uncharted one. So, like, I guess it's just a bad batch or whatever, but it definitely soured my experience of wanting to be on there a lot.
No, I remember that. For sure. But you got The Last Guardian out of it, which was...
And I mentioned Last Guardian because it was like one of the few exclusives that I remember playing. But I didn't know if I could count this one or not, or if you were going to bring it up. But there was one that wasn't technically a game.
I wrote it down in case we didn't get there, but I figured you'd get us there.
Yeah. PT.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's stuck on select consoles.
The hopeful experience and the reason why a lot of PS4s on eBay are stupid expensive. For that little piece of hope that got taken away way too soon.
Yeah, like that too is more than just the game itself. Like that takes me back to that era. Like, yes, 360 and PS3 let us download these things. Download games, big, small, whatever, patch games, but like the PS4 era was the one where like you could feasibly buy your entire library digitally for the first time. And there were experiences that were only happening digitally, right? Like it was a shift in that for sure. The fact that you could, unless you were in Mark's case, run updates in the background, like, have you gone back to a PS3 recently to like download something and like...
Yes.
You need to let it down. You have to watch it download, or you can hit download in background, but you can only do that for like one.
Well, you have to navigate the store first too, which is I was actually going to bring that up. The store worked for the first time on a PlayStation console.
Yeah.
They did take a step back in the UI because the XMB, the cross media bar, was the best.
Well,
maybe besides Blades.
Keep that in mind when we go to rank this thing, but yes.
Okay. And then it's the second best PlayStation controller. Currently.
It's a really good controller.
In current times. The
DualSense
being number one.
Even though I had my issues, I would still support the system because like games like Resident Evil 7, like I got I bought Sandeep's VR stuff for it.
Right.
Bring that up.
Like that game was strong enough for me to do that, and so like it was a good affordable way to get into VR when that was, still trying to learn how to walk.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I mean, a peripheral and an expensive one at that, but to the average person, but comparatively to other VR, yes, cheaper. I mean that they have a VR unit. Other consoles, besides PlayStation 5 and PSVR 2, don't have that. Unless you make one out of cardboard and slide your Switch in one.
With nothing to hold it to your head but your hands.
This was also the era where, and I'm just going to kind of rapid fire some games here, but this was the era where Japan, I feel, made a big swing back into making good video games that really like stood out. 2017 was obviously a big year in that regard. But I think all throughout the PS4's life cycle, we had, I mean, Mark already mentioned PT, but I would put that up there in that realm. But you had Final Fantasy 15, you had Nier Automata, Everybody's Golf, Gravity Rush 2, the Yakuza games making a big push in the West and kind of getting all remade in that era. Monster Hunter World comes back.
Persona.
Yeah.
Persona 5.
Yeah, Persona 5. Absolutely. Like,
Knack.
Totally.
Japan
Hell
Studio.
yeah, Knack.
Yeah.
Fucking Mark Cerny's baby. And Knack 2, don't forget. Never forget.
Of course. Yeah. But yeah, you know, we got this big rush of everything in the like middle of the PlayStation 4's life cycle. And I feel like it just made a big impact on it. Other than that, I mean, this is the part for me where first party Sony starts to get boring. Like I'm still hanging on and I'm having fun with like Marvel Spider-Man 2 was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that game, but it's like the first party stuff is all, I don't want to call it the same, but it's just everything just kind of feels very safe right now from Sony. And I feel like the PS4 era is where we started to see that. When things like Knack did not take off, Sony started to rely more on experiences like Days Gone and The Last of Us and things that they knew would work. So I don't know. That I feel there were some downsides to the PS4 era. Anyway, we've gone for a bit on this. I think any other games or things about this that we should mention before we rank it?
Astrobot.
Was that? Yeah, oh yeah, that was
the VR one. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Was it Astro's Playroom? I think that was what it was called.
I don't remember if that's the PS5 one or not. Astro's Playroom sounds like it could be it. That could also be the PS5 one.
And it was such a little thing, but I liked how the DualShock 4 Lite would correspond with games.
That was cool. This was and still is cool when they do it. Conversely, I did not like that it did not support the Vita connectivity. You couldn't connect to transfer games to it. I thought that was weird out of the box. You could no longer play PS1 games on this thing. There's no way to play PS1 games on PS4.
Yeah.
They didn't add PS2 support until later through emulation.
Much later.
Yeah. Not a lot of games did it right. So overall, I don't care for the in-controller speaker, but I didn't mind it when some games were, if they did it subtle enough.
Yeah, when it's done well.
Yeah, I like when you do the like radio comms through it. I think that works. Most recently, we got that in the Resident Evil 4 remake, but like MLB The Show would always have like dumb fan chatter coming out of it.
Yeah.
When you're at bat and stuff, which I thought, like, dumb, but like,
it's a neat
kind of, it tried. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have a spot you'd like to see this ranked?
I want to put it top 5. I just don't know where.
Oh, you're all the way up there, huh?
If I'm high, I'm not totally.
No, I was right above Game Boy Color, right below PS3.
Oh,
but I might be low.
I think you're a little low. I'm trying to remember what I said about the PlayStation 3 that made it land there.
Well, like everything with our list, they're a nightmare. So But, like looking at the other stuff we have kind of in that top 10, even, I feel like we talked a lot about innovation and new features and things that just were not done before. And PS4 to me was a better PS3. They said, hey, here's everything we screwed up.
I think that whole generation's kind of like that. Maybe besides Xbox One from 360, but it besides the rough launch, it eventually got there. It's just
no, Xbox One got there for sure.
Yeah, that's how we're kind of waiting. No, I agree with that completely.
That was always our that was why stuff like 3DS and PlayStation and 360.
I mean, that definitely makes sense. Yeah,
we were just sort of looking at like the big impact, and I feel like that's why to me this is worse than PS3 because I feel like PS3 did a lot of cooler things, but I also see the argument for this being an improved PS3 for it to go above it.
That's how I was viewing it for the most part. But,
so would you go between PSP and 3?
Probably. But I don't know. PS4 doesn't have PlayStation Home, so...
Well, PlayStation 3 doesn't have PlayStation Home either.
It did.
It was tangible at one point.
True.
Yeah, I could go either way with it.
No, I think I kind of agree with Joe. The catalog of games is weirder on PlayStation 3. I like the controller. I can't stress enough how much better the DualShock 4 was above any other PlayStation controller. But I think I like 3's catalog. I think I like 3's catalog better. Change. I'm trying to think. I just said Uncharted 4, but the other 3 Uncharted games are here. Last of Us Part 2, but the Last of Us is here.
If Silent Hills was a thing, I would put it above 3.
Well, it's not, and it's just as dead as the PlayStation Home, so...
I know, everything I like just gets cursed.
No, I like PS4. We've got it. I'm good with it.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, let's roll into technically the 8-bit generation with the TurboGrafx 16 or the PC Engine, depending on your area in the world. None of us own this, so we're going to speak from what we've played much later on. I think the controller's, straightforward, but I do like that the TurboGrafx thought about adding turbo buttons in from the start. That was a neat addition. It has one of the best Castlevania games ever made in Rondo of Blood.
Also one of the best pinball games.
Oh, yeah, it's got Devil's Crush and Alien Crush.
Yeah, it's got the tentpole game of the free cheese list.
Exactly. So this first launched in Japan October 30th, 1987, hit North America August 29th, 1989. I love the games for the TurboGrafx, the physical cartridges. Have you guys seen those? The Hue cards? Yeah. They're like baseball card size or credit card size, and yeah, they're really neat.
It's like what Master Chief puts Cortana into his helmet.
Yeah, dude. They're super cool looking. And a lot of great Konami games came out on the TurboGrafx. Lot of great. This was developed by Hudson, designed by Hudson, and then sold by NEC. But because of that, you have really, really great stuff from Hudson. Of course, Bomberman 93 was one that we had on our list, and still one of my favorite games for the platform. A lot of really good shooting games on there, or shmups, whatever your preference of term is. One I'll throw out is Ginga Fukei Densetsu Sapphire, or just Sapphire as it's colloquially known, where you play as an all-women police force in 2092, traveling through time to stop terrorists who are committing crimes. It's just cool, man. It's like really, really great, impressive backgrounds and fun ships to fly around in. Snatcher came out over there on the TurboGrafx. I know one that I've not played, but people love is Newtopia. It's kind of like a Zelda-like game. The Valis games came out there.
How can we forget
Splatterhouse got its start there.
I think I mix up just because I haven't played either one or physically. I think I confused some of the PC Engine stuff with MSX stuff because I was like about to say Metal Gear was birthed here, but no, it's not.
No, yeah. There are a lot of there's a lot of crossover between MSX and PC Engine though. Of course, there's Bonk, Adventure Island, Dungeon Explorer. It's a solid thing. My first exposure, and I think for a lot of people in America who didn't own a TurboGrafx, was the Wii Virtual Console, and then later PlayStation Network would start to drop some of these games there as well.
Yeah, that's where I'm not even sure if I knew what this thing was until I saw the logo for it in the Wii shop.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before, and I like read magazines back in the 90s, and looking back at some of those magazines now, it was there. I just think my brain didn't even acknowledge it as a thing because it didn't say Sega or Nintendo on it.
It did have a Die Hard game.
But
God damn it.
You know, who can ask for more? It eventually got a CD-ROM add-on. That's where the Dracula X or Rondo Blood would end up. It's a rad platform. I think it's a great alternative to. It's weird because it is technically 8-bit, but it competed with the Super Nintendo and Genesis. It came out like right in between the 8 and 16-bit stuff, but it played more into that generation of things. It would have technically been, the first 4th generation console. Where does it rank, though?
I don't know, but there's a game, and the Wikipedia page doesn't exist. I'm going to look it up somehow. There's an F1 Team Simulation Project F.
That sounds right.
What the hell is this game? And is it the first sim manager for the F1 series? If that's the case, it's probably the new number 2, but I'm not sure. It's more of my unfamiliarity, kind of that sucks. I mean, I know some of the library. We've obviously played some of the library, and what I've played is cool. But that's handpicked stuff. Yeah. Because of that, I kind of have to rank it low. But I don't know. That's fair.
No, I don't think you're off base. Like, there's a lot of great games, but that's kind of all it comes down to. Like, the hardware, I think the TurboGrafx itself that we got in America is pretty ugly. The controller's dope. I like the 2 buttons. I like the turbo feature. It's an easy rocker D-pad, but outside of that, I don't know. Mark, what do you think?
This might come off as rude, but I'm not trying to be. I just don't know how else to say it. It's kind of like the most milquetoast console.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got your games, and some stand out, and that's great, but I just don't think it has the ability to compete against the other stuff. But on its own, I still think it's a charming little thing, but it still feels very limited.
Yeah. I think the library is the only thing it has going for it, which is which is really all any console has, right? But
right, it's
there's
probably a
sometimes
good
exciting
like
things about hardware or anything, right?
it's probably like a good arcade port machine for that time.
But if we're looking at that, we've got something else coming up soon that is built for nothing but
better.
Yeah.
You're right.
And stuff like the Saturn and Dreamcast, I think did.
So I put the asterisk like maybe for its time.
No, this did do a lot. It had a lot of crossover between. You had a lot of people making games for this that were making arcade games. So there's definitely that pedigree.
And like I didn't even know this thing existed growing up. You know, like it wasn't a blip on the radar.
Yeah, that hurts it a lot in this. I'm gonna throw out a suggestion here.
Okay.
Well, I'm about to bump it up one. So go ahead.
You're gonna bump it up one?
Yep. Whatever you put it, I'm gonna bump it up one automatically.
I have this at 16 between Sega Saturn and Sega Game Gear.
All right, it's the new 15. Project F is a managerial simulation that puts the player in the role of the owner of a Formula One company. The player is responsible for paying salary to managers, mechanics, and other members of the staff. The racing competition itself is non-interactive.
Love that.
I gotta see how good those menus are, because if it's like a nightmare to jump between that stuff. You only got 2 buttons.
A keyboard peripheral for this?
No idea. September. I think it came out September 11th. Oh, sorry, September 4th, 1992. There you go.
I love Matt's metric.
Yeah. No, I think it's really solid. Like the library.
I'm thankful for Snatcher and Devil's Crush for sure.
Yeah, right. Like there's a lot of games that I've come to learn and play and discover on TurboGrafx that they're some of my favorite games I've ever played ever. Period. And I feel like looking at the library alone, I like the library of this better than the Game Gear library, and I like Game Gear quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would put it above Game Gear for sure.
Do we like it above Saturn, or are we good keeping Saturn at 15, barring F1 Team Simulation Project F?
I'm good with where it's at.
Yeah, I can't put it above Saturn.
I will lock it in while we move into our next console. 1996's very own Project Ultra, the Nintendo 64.
Oh, buddy.
This is weird because this is that game that's had this just game. This is a console that's just had it's like long tail. Like when I was in college, no one talked about having their PlayStation or like their Super Nintendo. Like everyone, it was cool to have your N64 to play like Mario Kart and Smash and like things like that. I'm sure there's far others. Me personally, I have played the N64 religiously over our friend's house, as mentioned, making wrestlers, doing belt campaigns, doing fake stables, betraying one another, and WWF No Mercy at great lengths. But yeah, no, it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those, it's just iconic. Like I don't know, I don't think there's anything like at a technical level. You know, I think the PlayStation had more underneath the hood, but I'm not sure. Like I don't know. The N64 just has such a ring to it than just PlayStation 1. I don't know. It's just it's weird.
This was a huge, change, right? Like this was 3D. And I know that the PlayStation did 3D, but like having Nintendo do it did feel different. And Mario was made such a big deal out of. Rightfully so, right? It did the joystick, Mario, like it was a perfect showcase for the next evolution of video games. And the controller made sense contextually, believe it or not.
It's weird controller.
Yeah.
Very distinct. Probably the most distinctive controller.
Yeah. The Jaguar is a pretty interesting one, but other than that,
mainstream.
As far as like successful marketing goes, like
yeah,
like there were kids meals toys at Taco Bell.
Yeah, dude.
Promoting this system.
Weren't you and I looking them up a couple years ago on eBay to try and buy them all again?
I've never seen another system get promoted so heavily.
No.
That.
The Sneak King stuff was a close second, but not like
this. Yeah, like the 64, like it might have lost a lot of its RPGs by the time it went to that transition, but like at least in the traditional sense. But you still had your action RPGs, obviously, because how can you ignore Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, right? Or
yeah.
Other games that weren't developed by Nintendo, but it was mainly like a platformer, but it was probably the biggest competitive console in terms of like, yes, Mario Kart, bring that anywhere. Everybody will still talk about and want to play specifically that one.
Yeah.
Probably more than others.
That one.
GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. Those were the games before Halo was put on the map.
100%.
It's just insane, but like, and then when Smash hit the scene too, like that was a very obsessive thing when Pokemon Stadium came out and you could have the Game Boy pack. And
I was going to bring that up since you brought up with the GameCube. Yeah, the Pokemon Stadium stuff. And the most
Rumble
underrated
pack with Star Fox.
The Rumble pack as well. I was going to bring up the most underrated Pokemon game, Pokemon Snap.
I'm not sure if it's underrated.
Solid.
Yeah, like people
being
love
able
that.
to take your game back to Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's
stickers. That was so cool.
Pokemon Stadium, you could do that too. They extended it to that one. Print those little stickers out.
There's just for anyone who's curious and like feeling nostalgic, I believe you have to bing around and find it, but there's someone who is working to get one of those machines restored and operating and making it available. It's like a retro video game store or something.
That's awesome.
Who's trying to make it available so that you can just walk in and use it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite video games is still on that platform, and it hasn't been able to escape it. Mystical Ninja.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played, and that's a Konami joint. It even though like the console couldn't really do a lot of like FMV stuff or a lot of voice acting, like they had some, but it wasn't as much as other games probably on PlayStation and stuff.
Yeah, the CD stuff, the CD capacity just let them do a bit more, but this still was able to. They were able to tell stories in different ways, and
even with the limitations, they still found ways to like make it work.
Yeah, no, everything. Yeah, when they did it right, it worked. This was the start of 3D platformers, like heavily. There's so many. You've got Mystical Ninja. I remember playing a lot of Rocket Robot on Wheels, and playing with all the physics in that, and having a lot of fun with that one. In addition to Mario Kart being synonymous with this platform, there's stuff like Diddy Kong Racing. That was super big.
Hell yeah.
Mario Tennis starts here.
Yeah, right. Mario Golf as well. Mario Party, I think would be remiss to not mention.
1 through 3, right?
Yeah, the best ones. Honestly, like 2 is still one of my favorite just games, period. Not even Mario Parties. I think it's still the best Mario
Everyone
Party,
still have their burns in the center of their palms.
Yeah, dude.
It was a rite of passage.
Yeah. Cruising USA, just spending hours and hours on that and trying to perfect the takeoff and the turning and the braking.
What was it called? Blue Street Boogie? Was that the song?
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Or was it
this is where I first played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yep.
The blue cartridge with the 60-second snippets of songs.
That was my introduction. I was like, oh, this ska song's pretty cool if only it had lyrics.
Yeah.
One of the better Star Wars games is on this console exclusive on 64, Rogue Squadron.
Oh yeah. That's the Factor 5 game, right?
Thought you were gonna say Shadows of the Empire.
No.
Pod racing was also on there.
Yeah, that went other places. Wasn't everywhere though.
Was it?
Oh, maybe not. Actually, hold on. Nope.
I remember pod racing being pretty synonymous with 64, but that might have just been the time.
Sorry, no, that was N64. That was N64.
Yeah, like a lot of racing and platforming.
Yeah, the episode 1 racer is not bad either for Star Wars.
But I also played stuff like NFL Blitz on this. Like I played a lot of
hell yeah,
sports stuff.
NBA hang time.
Yeah, dude.
What? Oh,
hang time.
I mean, I kind of hinted at it, but I'd be remiss to say the best wrestling games, like the golden era wrestling games, are here. That's WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, WCW, NW Revenge. They're all here.
Nitro.
Yeah. Kirby 64, Yoshi's Story.
Yep.
I love this platform, dude. I still I love when all the colors came out too. My brother got the teal one after we already had the standard gray box, but this
all just
cool.
All those clear
purple
colors, man.
What was it? What's
Atomic Purple.
Atomic Purple.
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
I feel like everyone I knew that at N64 that Atomic Purple controller.
I had that, yeah, because there was a bundle that came with the controller and the
Okay. There was an Atomic Green. I feel like I've seen that once out in the wild, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were. I'm gonna get you the exact colors here. We gotta. I feel like this whole episode is running longer than it should have because I forgot that we used to time these segments.
Yeah, I was wondering where the time. Okay, but that's fine.
Oh right, shit.
Yeah, it's fine.
I was kind of wondering.
So we'll sprint through these colors and then we'll rank this thing. You had Funtastic Jungle Green.
Mm-hmm.
This is all part of the Funtastic series. So I'm not gonna say so. Yeah, Jungle Green, Ice Blue, Grape Purple, Fire Orange, Smoke or Clear Black, depending on your region, Watermelon Red, and then they had Clear White with Blue. That had like the white on the underside and the blue on top. They had Clear White with red on top. Then, of course, there was Pikachu.
Didn't it have like ears on it on the back of it?
The Pikachu
or, like, the
one
tail?
had a whole Pikachu on it. Like,
or that.
On the right
okay.
side. And when you power on the console, the power button was a Pokeball, and then the reset button was Pikachu's foot, and its cheek lit up to let you know that it was.
That was to sell Hey You Pikachu.
Yeah. They also had the Gold Toys R Us exclusive in America.
Probably goes to Zelda.
I don't know if it was Zelda or not.
I remember Nintendo Power had a
Also
contest for it.
referred to as the Zelda 64 console. But it says here for no real reason. Thanks to consolevariations.com.
We have Doom and Quake 64s as well.
Yeah, those are two great weird ports of fantastic video games.
The Banjo games.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can rank it.
I love the N64. N64 is a wonderful platform. It's been a lot of fun with the Mr. Core coming online.
It's a great nostalgia machine for sure.
Uh-oh.
That's all. I just have to emphasize the nostalgia part of it because some games haven't aged well because of that control scheme. We were so used to playing with a single stick, and the C buttons were an ass of a mess for most things. Like trying to move with that. A lot of shooters, like we could do it then, but now I can't go back
frames.
after having a right stick.
Oh, I can't play GoldenEye anymore. It's just
you were saying the right stick, but I was saying GoldenEye at 5 frames when you. Another play.
Well, because back then that's all we had, right? So it was it was great.
And who had a 120 hertz monitor back then? You know, like no one.
No, yeah,
but it's
tough. It's tough now too when you play something with a mod, like this playing on Switch on that emulator. Like your instinct is still to push the right stick, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think huge impact of a system.
Yeah, I agree. Where do we like this guy?
I think I'm somewhere between 4 and 8. I just don't know where. I think the catalog alone gets it all the way up there.
I think if we were doing just catalog, sure. I feel like I want to put it. Damn, this is tough. I'm definitely above the Super Nintendo.
I am too.
But I don't know if I can go above the Game Boy Advance.
I think I'm with you. As much as I love the Dreamcast and the Xbox, I think I stop at GBA.
And like, I feel like my gut was to put it underneath the Xbox.
I can also do that. But I also like...
No, I like the Xbox is cool, but it's a Halo machine at the end of the day, in my opinion.
So what about if it was under the Dreamcast?
I'm fine
good with that too. Because I think the Dreamcast innovated a lot more and did a lot cooler things.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm good with. Let's do it. Let's lock it in before I change my mind. We also have to quickly move on to our next
speed run the rest of this episode.
Yeah. Let's hit the NEO-GEO. This is going to be another one similar to the TurboGrafx, where none of us owned it. We wouldn't play it until playing a lot of these games.
And I didn't know what it was until I saw it on the Wii store.
Yeah, right? Like,
I know it was like, to me, it was just like a fighting game machine.
I kind of, honestly, in hindsight, that's all it really feels like. The NEO-GEO, there were two platforms. There's the MVS and the AES. So the MVS, pulling up the acronym, the multi-video system, was the coin-operated arcade machine. And
right. This is like the arcade console.
Yeah, if you had this arcade machine in your establishment, you would choose which cartridges went into it. People would come in. You could put up to 6 different carts into a single cabinet. So if you had limited, every place was trying to cram as many machines in as possible. You could get 6 games in one thing. You could swap out the top banner so you could advertise which games you had in there, and kids could come and play accordingly. They then made a home console version, the Advanced Entertainment System, or AES, which was originally released for as a rental console in Japan because of how high it cost to manufacture. Eventually, it would make its way out in other places. When it launched in North America, it was $649 US, which, if we're adjusting for inflation today, is about $1,400. So imagine going out and buying a console today for $1,400.
I can't imagine buying a console today for $600. To be completely honest with you,
right? So, this launched in North America in July of 1991 at $649. Game wise, to Mark's point, it's a lot of fighting games. It's a lot of arcade games. Yeah. Most of this stuff, if you've been paying attention to Virtual Console, the PlayStation Network, any of this stuff in the last 5 years, the stuff that Hamster has been putting out is basically the entire NEO-GEO ROM history. But stuff like Metal Slug, King of Fighters, Waku Waku 7, Garu, Mark of the Wolves, Samurai Showdown, Windjammers, Magical Drop, Paul Star. I think those are all solid games. I've had a lot of fun playing these games in other formats, but obviously never played them back then. Probably played a bit in the arcade, here and there. Some King of Fighters I remember. Yeah. But, really cool concept. Way too expensive to be practical. But neat, and it's neat that at home the controller it came with was an arcade stick.
Yeah. First portable arcade stick?
there were third-party peripherals and first-party stuff on NES. So
yeah, I had the NES one.
Oh, it goes back that. My bad. Did not know that. Sorry, I'm new to the Street Fighter community and the fighting scene. Okay.
No, yeah, there's all sorts of crazy.
It's a lot of history I have to learn.
The SG-1000, they all had crazy peripherals back in the 80s too that baffle. But yeah. This is another one kind of like TurboGrafx where I feel like we have to rely on the library. I'll give it some points for creativity with launch strategy and the concept of being able to like go between the arcade and home is really neat. But this one for me
doesn't have an F1 simulator though. Keep that in mind.
I don't think it does. No,
it doesn't. I'm looking at the
list. Oh, you checked it.
It's not as long as like the N64 one. I can scrub through it pretty fast.
For me, this is between WonderSwan and Game & Watch.
I'm not really going to argue because, again,
yeah.
I mean, a little bit of research. I've seen some of the games in action, but I've actually, maybe I played some of them. Not really. I guess I played a little bit of Metal Slug, but I don't have like a say here or there.
I was going to put it above the Saturn.
No.
Or at least above the TurboGrafx. I was going to put it above that.
I think I like the games on TurboGrafx better, but I see your argument. Can we go above Game Gear and below TurboGrafx and call it even?
Yeah.
All right. There it is. Next up on our list, which should be a little bit more easy to discuss, the Nintendo DS.
You want innovation? Here's innovation. 2 screens!
Dude, fully. Which Game & Watch did it first. But yeah.
Well, we're going to put more than one game, kind of, on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it wasn't... this is when they wanted to care about backwards compatibility a little bit. Bottom port being a GBA port.
I forgot that first edition had that.
First 2 did.
Yeah. Well, Joe, when there's 16 editions, I guess, yeah, I grouped the first in like the first 8. So
like
3. Like,
the DS Lite to me was like the best version of the DS.
I think I should. I'm gonna read what I wrote because I feel like exactly what you're saying is where I'm at. Yeah. I skipped the DS at launch. When it launched, that big fat one, I was like, nah, dude, the PSP is way cooler. And I ended up not buying a PSP either. It just seemed way more suited to my preference. But first taste of DS, Mark, you brought it up earlier, but the fact that you could play games with only one cart was a cool feature, right? Mm-hmm. And when we stood in line for the Wii, a bunch of my friends had their DSs, and we're all playing Mario Kart DS, and I remember playing on somebody's DS. And then in early 2008, I bought a DS Lite. And at that point, I got to jump into... specifically, I remember getting Pokemon Diamond, Drawn to Life, and New Super Mario Brothers. But that form, I loved the hardware. I loved the DS Lite, I think. And I thought about this when I was taking notes for the show and everything. And at first, I was like, it came out as my gut reaction. But then I've thought about it since. I think it is still my favorite Nintendo hardware. DS Lite, wow. Period. I don't think they've done a lot of cool stuff. But I just think that,
especially if you're a Pokemon fan, this was the thing. There's no way you could not have one.
Yeah, no, synonymous with Pokemon. There were so many good Pokemon games. Plus, the GBA.
When Gen 4 happened, and you're transferring Pokemon from Fire Red or Leaf Green or Ruby and Sapphire Emerald, they made it so easy, all in one spot. No bank, no farm.
This also launched that whole. We had an episode. Was it an episode or a topic with it? Anyway, this started that casual learning saga of games with like what was the first? Was it Brain Age the first one, or what was Brain Age? Okay, like Brain Age, and yeah, other casual stuff that kind of hit this market too, like Nintendogs. That's a big deal. And then this was also, I don't think they did it as much on the 3DS, but this was the one that got those weird ports of games trying to bring current stuff over to the DS in some way. Like, I see a listing for Call of Duty Black Ops. That game has no business being on a DS, but it's there.
No, and a lot of those games are weird, cooler versions. And not, they're not going to be the console thing, but like, one of my favorite experiences, I just had it a few years back, was Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on DS.
Yeah.
It's a really good, solid Metroidvania. Like, it's not even... I don't know, it's totally different, totally cool. But yeah, you're right. There were all these weird...
Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery? Like, I don't even think I've heard of this game.
Another one, we could talk about a ton of games, but there's a couple of things that stand out. Like, you bring up that there were a lot of like application-based things. There's cookbooks on this that you can get where like you can follow along with recipes. Like, you can stand it up like a book and like tap on it to read. The Korg DS10 synthesizer, where you can make straight just synthesizer beats with actual like Korg instruments. But my two favorite experiences: the Conveni DS Otona no Kei Ryoku Training, aka the convenience store simulation game, where you get to play through what it's like to work in a convenience store. And one better is E-Crew Development Program, aka the McDonald's training game for training new restaurant employees. This was something McDonald's made on a DS cart, and when you'd get hired at McDonald's in Japan, they'd hand you a DS to do your training, to learn how to make key items, to like do all your It's crazy. You can download it and play it now.
You remember the video on that?
On the
McDonald's one, there was a story about the guy who made a ROM for it, and then like had the ninjas come after him and all this shit. It was
it's a crazy saga. But like that game itself, like the fact that the fact that like companies started to look at the DS as like a place to put applications. Like, this is right in that sweet spot of like smartphones just burgeoning into existence, and DS is super cool. Then of course, Chinatown Wars, right? Grand Theft Auto, Contra 4. The Dark Spire is one that our friend Ben recommended, and I can echo that, as I've not played it a lot because it's very difficult, but it's a super cool dungeon crawler. Meteos, Picross 3D.
I was gonna say, just about to ask, is this where Picross makes its like detour into video games, or was it done before?
Jupiter had been making Picross games since the Game Boy Super.
I didn't know the stylus was like the.
But like, this is where you would. This is like the definitive place to do
this. This is where
games.
It starts to become exactly. I think Shin Megami Tensei, the Devil Survivor series, the strategy games, like the SRPG kind of things, are really cool. And then, of course, lest I forget, Castlevania: Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. Like,
Dawn of Sorrow was my first Castlevania game.
Dude, I mean, and you don't get much better than that.
Hotel Dusk was one of my favorites, and swear the Zero Escape series started. 999.
Yeah.
Is Hotel Dusk the one you always talk about that you turn it sideways and you just like
and everybody looks like they're in an Aha music video?
Yeah. I love it, dude. I just bought a DSi this year. It's such a great platform.
I never liked the DSi's design. Couldn't get into it. It's that finish. I don't like that finish.
It's still the same as the DS Lite.
No, DS Lite was like a glossy, nice. DSi has like that matte, like you see your greasy fingers all over it.
I don't know. This one's definitely a little stained yellow. I had to like clean it up a good bit because it's a white console, but this one's matte.
Or maybe matte's the wrong term I'm thinking of. It. There was the pink and blue ones to me felt like a weird dry rubber look to it. I don't know. It just wasn't.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. On the yeah.
It's like you just had pink, black, white, and blue. And that was it. And I was like,
no, this one feels okay. I don't hate it. I just went on a trip, and this was the only thing I took. Like, this was the only video game console. I was like, I'm good with this thing. Yeah. The DS rules.
Mm-hmm.
It rules a lot. I think I'm gonna swing for it, y'all. I'm gonna put it above the 3DS.
Nope.
What?
3DS does everything better. The only thing it doesn't have is this a GBA port, but you can do everything on the DS
games as well.
What are you talking? Yes, it does.
They're ugly.
What? It's like the same.
Come on over. They're different. It's the screen resolution is different, so they get stretched out on 3DS. They don't look as good.
Not all of them are stretched. Some just stay in that ratio. You just have that border.
You can do that. You hold select when you're booting into it to make that happen, and it sucks. It's not as pretty. It's not the thing.
I guess it's case by case.
But I
don't have a dog in this fight because the 3DS I own is the 2DS. So,
hey, I feel like the 3DS is another situation like the PS4.
Yeah, I mean, going back to an earlier conversation, innovation. I mean, like you said, you just kind of hit the nail on the head. What I was going to say, but like, they needed to do something with their handheld from Game Boy Advance, and they did it. Then they put two screens on a thing, and they kept it backwards compatible. Kept that library, at least initially.
Yeah. No,
I introduced it in a digital store. It had a digital store on this one, right?
Not until DSi.
Ah, okay.
No, 3DS did a lot of that good stuff. 3DS added... I mean, the 3D is super cool.
You got the circle stick. You got better shoulder buttons.
True. But all that wouldn't happen until later. Remember that.
What, the circle stick and the shoulder buttons?
Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, wait. Sorry. Yeah, there was the left circle stick. You're right.
Yeah, the little right nub. I don't care about that. I could.
That's the worst thing. Hold on. Can we talk about the right nub? It's the stupidest goddamn thing. I half the time I forget it's a thing.
No game really used it. It was just like a good camera thing, because doing a 3D game on a regular DS, you had to use your stylus the whole time to turn shit around. Like trying to play Metroid Prime on that was awful.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you 3DS. We were really high on the 3DS. I remember when we ranked that, we were all very
got the Street Pass.
If it falls, I think it falls a little bit. I think I put it between 360 and GBA.
I'd be happy.
I can settle for that.
I was gonna say I'd be happy with it going over the 360, but that's fine.
I'm good with that too, Mark. What do you think?
Why? If there's time.
Games?
There's not, but we can answer it anyway.
Games? It was a simple answer, games.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the 360 is the ecosystem. Sure, that was probably the argument then, not going back and listening and doing my homework before this episode. But, yeah.
There's a lot.
Games. I know the 360 has a bunch too, but there's good stuff. There's weird stuff.
Okay.
And good and weird.
Mark, let me say this. There's a lot of great stuff on the 360.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was also ported to PC and PS3. The DS is an experience unlike any other that you can truly only experience on the hardware itself.
But where else can I play Rock Band 2?
PS3.
Yo, you could play Guitar Hero on that DS.
I did.
Yeah, I did too. It was rad. It was awesome.
I never did, but it looked real dumb from afar.
It was real cool from up close.
I'm a dog in this fight. I was just
all right. Just I'll compromise because 3DS didn't get touched. I'll compromise.
All right, fair trade.
Yeah, the Halo 360. What up?
We're gonna keep the Nintendo train rolling with Matt's favorite, the Wii U.
All right, this is easy. What number are we at? 27. 27. No. I'll let you talk.
This one, dude. I mean, this honestly is pretty easy. It has amazing video games. It had amazing services like Miiverse, the like TV integration. The fact that you could like quickly just like control your TV from your controller was really neat. You could pull the image from the screen to your controller. I think all of that was really rad. It just didn't get the long-term support that it needed, right? It just like...
Yeah, it's third party was its doom.
Yeah, it was a good virtual console machine.
It was a great virtual console machine. It was a great
first party. Yeah.
Like,
it's just all that stuff's on Switch now. That's how I played it.
No, you're right. Like, I think Nintendo was really shining with software at this point. I mean, Mario Kart 8, Pikmin 3, Bayonetta 2. I know that wasn't them, but you know, Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker, Super Mario 3D Land, Smash Brothers for Wii U until Ultimate was the best Smash Brothers. Like, they just got better. Yeah. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Splatoon started here.
There's made for as much. I mean, as much as I like to make fun of it, like it's definitely the prototype to the Switch. I mean, the evidence is there. And no, I'm not going to deny it didn't have a good first party library. It's just what is marketing? At least it's initial marketing, because I remember watching at E3 and I didn't know if it was a new console or not. I thought it was just a tablet. And I'm someone that's like, at that time I was kind of like ingrained in it, and I still didn't know.
Because the media didn't know who were there. They were like, wait.
Yeah,
like, they were reporting it to us, and yeah, it was
very weird. Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with the console long term, but like that was part of its death. And then two, like the third party support was piss poor. And then what third party support it got, it was like ports of games that had already hit PS3
a year
and
later.
They weren't. Yeah, and it wasn't like they weren't following up with the sequels either. Like you got Arkham City like a year after Arkham City came out. Yeah, Mass Effect 3 without any of your fucking decisions. You know, in the previous two Mass Effect games. Like I remember those two notably from E3. But that was its death. I think the tech. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I still think the tablet is a Fisher Price tablet at the end of the day, but it works.
The tech within it,
right? No, it works. It works.
It works. And we were just talking about the other day. The PlayStation Portal just came out, and like the Wii U has better latency than it. The Wii U has better. Digital Foundry did tests, and the Wii U has better latency, the tablet, than the console talking to the TV. Right? Like it's better at that, and like the PlayStation Portal is not even. It's just, and it's what 11 years removed or something.
And depending on, I know not every game let you kind of take it on the go, but you know, when that worked, you didn't have to be right next to the console. You had some leeway. In a row home, I was like on different floors, and depending on where I was at on the next floor, it got sketchy. But like, there was definitely like a good section of the living room where it worked flawlessly.
No, it could work. When I got the Wii U, I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I could
be
from
perfect.
The living room, lay in bed, and it was
like my room was like backyard side. I was like front of house side, living like down the floor, and it was working in certain areas perfectly.
Let's close out on not close out, but Miiverse. I kind of mentioned it in the beginning in like a sweeping thing, but like Miiverse was so cool, and I really do miss it. I'm sure it was moderation hell, but like,
I mean, was it though? Because it seemed like a lot of things got crossed.
A lot, I think that's why they had to stop, right? But like,
it was on 3DS.
Cool. It was a cool concept. Like the fact that you could just share stuff and ask questions right from the thing. Like, They tried to do that on Switch, but you're outputting to third-party social media platforms, and like the process was always cumbersome to get to them. Like you had to push it from the Switch to your phone to then put. Just stupid. Miiverse was cool, and it integrated with games in a smart, cool way. Like you'd unlock stuff for Miiverse by playing games. It was just neat. And it was cool, like having my little central hub where all my friends would run in and wave, and I could see what they were playing. Like I'd click on Mark's face and see what Mark's playing. I'd click on Aqua's, like just a cool thing.
And you could use your Wiimotes, because let's face it, everyone that owned a Wii U already had a Wii. It wasn't vice versa. So like you use your Wiimotes and it was backwards compatible.
But I still have it set up.
And that's cool.
Ready to go at any time.
It is the better use of Mario Maker, though. Mario Maker 2 is not the same without the way it worked on Wii U.
Yeah.
I would say that's still the definitive version of that game.
Mark, final thoughts on Wii U?
They needed Amiibo to save them.
Oh, I forgot about Amiibo. That might have
That's where their profit came from.
Yeah, it really did. All right. Wii U. I don't have anything bad to say about Wii U. Truly. It didn't succeed, but I had it and I loved it, and it did everything I needed it to do.
It did, like, from what I just echoed what I said earlier, like it was a good spot for virtual console stuff, for me. And it has the best version of Twilight Princess. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I could have said this back then, but now we're in a post-Switch world. It just kind of feels like the Charmeleon to Switch's Charizard. It just feels like a stepping stone.
Oh yeah. No, it does. I think the trade-off is this had eShop music.
Yeah. Yes. Forget shit.
Switch isn't always ranking list, right? No, that's probably the best. I'll rip into that UI so much. Yeah. God. I think I predicted 3 years in a row about a big main menu overhaul.
I think maybe next year when Nintendo puts out a new thing, then we can start to make the Switch. I think we wanted to keep everything.
No, that makes sense. I'm just saying when that time comes, man, do I have opinions?
Yeah, I
know. Ranking it, I'm going to use the argument you just used against you. Like, everything on that platform I can now play on my Switch. Granted, I got to buy it, but...
Except Miiverse.
Well, that's just dead. Like the PlayStation Home.
I know you don't like the feeling of the tablet, but...
I mean, I do it for... Back then, it was like, okay.
But you also, like, the one cool thing about this is, like, yes, you can play Pikmin 3 on the Switch. And Pikmin 3 is great on the Switch. But on Wii U, you could have that 2-screen experience where you like got to like reference your map in a big way. Like that's.
I'm not saying really definitive versions aren't on the Wii U. I'm just saying so much of that has got ported, and a lot of people probably don't even know what it was like on the Wii U. Like Treasure Tracker is probably works way better on the Wii U than it does on Switch, and other stuff like that. Splatoon.
Splatoon is a much better. Splatoon 2 and 3 are much better games than Splatoon 1, but the map right in your hand.
Yeah, because you can see the ink, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Couldn't you see the ink on that mini map at all times?
Yeah,
it's a strategy.
You didn't have to press X to pull up and look at. You know what I mean? Like take you out of the game to see the thing. Like it was right there. If you wanted to drop to one of your friends, you tapped on the thing. Like it was great.
My argument about you said it. They're 2 and 3 better games. Okay, never mind.
But there's a lot of feature stuff that was,
I was going to bring it. You had to play with motion.
I
thought one you have to.
I think you're right. You could still use the stick, but yeah. Anyway. Matt, what do you think?
I'm like, I don't want to shit on it too much. There's stuff there. I can't see it being above our little PlayStation 3 and 4 pairing.
I think I'm with you. Mark?
I agree.
Is it above Game Boy Color, below PS4?
I don't hate it there. Really?
Let me ask you this. is it above PS4, below PS3?
You know, I thought about that for a hot second, but then I thought about the controller.
Remember, you had multiple controller options. You did have the Pro controller option.
Yeah, but the DualShock 4 is still better than that Pro controller.
True.
Yeah, was that the Pro controller where both the sticks are at top?
Yeah,
yes.
It was. I'll move the PlayStation 4. Sorry, you guys. It was also hollow, dude. Like, that controller was really light.
There was no way.
Yes, it was. It is a light controller.
But the battery lasted for 12 years. Like, I still have not charged it the whole time I've had it.
I mean, the Switch Pro controller, while having a little bit more buff, a little more kick in that vibration, still lasts a long time.
Yeah.
That
DualSense.
DualSense.
Wii U above the PS4 so bad. I'm telling you, looking at this, it does not look right.
No, it looks
sure.
No, it looks pretty damn good in my opinion.
Mark, you sure?
I could really go either way with it.
All right, we'll leave it. We gotta run through these other ones. We're way over.
You're gonna put the Wii U above Bloodborne? It's kind of weird, but
I would do it. All right, talk GameCube.
Shit.
Speaking of fun controllers,
Fuck, this is another half an hour debate. Smash. Wait, hold on. Let's just say all the usual suspect. A Smash. Well, the Mario is not actually probably not the best Mario. Mario Kart. Oh, the one. Put it at one. Put it at one. We're not. Don't we have to debate? Maybe two because a double. We can make it two. Whatever.
Sure.
Enough fucking said. He's got the best goddamn Mario Kart track, the best racing circuit in the world, and the best just karting game. Period.
You're also forgetting about Odama, which is one of the platform's high points. Brought to
Who
you
needs
by,
Odama when he got Baby Park?
True.
You got Luigi's Mansion, the birth of that boy.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion's solid. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
I was sticking with
Metroid
Luigi's
Prime.
Mansion.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 1 and 2 were on here.
Right, yeah, that's the birth of
Pikmin,
that.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot
this is where the whole Game Boy player comes in, or to connect into GBAs if you want to do Four Sword co-op or Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles co-op.
Yeah.
This is the Wind Waker Zelda. Its own game.
And Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Even though we had it first.
Right.
Honestly, the only bad thing about GameCube is the Mario game. Like, the first party offerings from Nintendo were great in the GameCube era.
I mean, yeah, like...
It's not a bad
Smash
game.
was a big
It's
deal.
just not its
No, but it's
best.
just... Yeah. They were more weird and creative with stuff like Pikmin and Luigi's Mansion than I feel. Mario Sunshine.
Resident Evil 4 was the...
This is where Sega lived on after Dreamcast.
That I was gonna say that. Well, it kind of split, right? Like a lot of the like stuff like Panzer Dragoon and
Shenmue 2.
Yeah, like that stuff made its way to Xbox. Like you kind of had the more like adult focused things hit Xbox, but then the GameCube is where the more all ages content hit. All the good Sonic stuff hit here. I mean, it hit everywhere.
Yeah, it eventually hit the other consoles, but GameCube had it first with like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Like that was an update from the Dreamcast. You had Sonic Adventure DX on there.
Sonic Riders.
Never got Riders. I think that was PS2.
Okay.
Because I think you could use the iToy for motion.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Unless maybe the first one was on there, but
but
like Phantasy Star Online. This is where
this
is my introduction to it. Spent all my hours there.
Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Yeah, Billy Hatcher, and
this also had Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Skies of Arcadia. That was another one.
Yeah, that one came over.
It's the exclusive home still of that weird Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes game.
True.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be my first recommendation, but yeah, that's there.
No, but yeah. I love the controller too. I know the controller was obviously revived for Smash and stayed alive, but I love the
It's one of my favorites.
The weirdly sized buttons that emphasize importance and functionality. The triggers are really good. The Z, it's just a cool controller.
I also like the size of the discs and
yes,
just how you could plug in 4 controllers at once right there. And Xbox did it too, but like the memory cards, everything just felt simple
and correct. Like it it felt like the next right step from the 64. It was just a solid little platform. I love the handle of it. I love the size of it. The box, the GameCube ruled.
I might be take this with asterisks, but I think like one of the weirder definitive versions of Resident Evil 2 is stuck on the GameCube.
Yes, but I think it's a port of
the Dreamcast port.
I think, yeah.
Oh, maybe. Okay. I said,
but it did add stuff. I believe that, the extra content or whatever is on GameCube, like the tofu stuff or whatever. Maybe I'm misremembering, but yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah. No, I love the hardware. I love the controller. The library is great too. I mean, GameCube's game. I feel like
yeah.
Where do we like it? Do we like GameCube more than Nintendo 64?
Yes.
Do we like it more than Dreamcast?
I can say that in the sense of a being a somewhat successor. For that, that generation was a successor. But...
No, yeah. I would say, on the whole, I think GameCube probably stronger than Dreamcast in the long run. Like, for me, too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've got a Sega bias, but I can look past it.
If we go above
my Game Boy Advance.
I was going to say, if we jump Dreamcast, I think it jumps the Advance.
Yeah.
Does it jump the 360?
I'd listen to arguments.
Well, if we could put the DS above it for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Could probably put GameCube up there.
But I also think, like, this is a weird, I don't want to knock on the 360, but, like, I could walk into a retro store right now, buy a GameCube and 5 games, and just have a great time. I mean, do the
GameCube
same with 360. I just worry about the online stuff.
But I need 30 megabytes of a disc and a controller.
And you also have to worry about the longevity.
Hours. You have to what, Mark?
The longevity. Like, the GameCube has a better survival rate.
That's exactly. I think. I like it.
Even.
No, go ahead.
Like, 360 has still my favorite UI of all time.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna get past that. But.
Yeah, but it didn't have the cool little Easter egg little hold Z at the boot.
True.
Tried it with 4 controllers, too.
Hey.
Oh, right, yeah, there was something. Yeah.
No, GameCube's solid.
It is. I'd put it above 360.
Does it go above DS, or is DS the line?
I think DS is your line.
I'd put it above DS, but that's me.
I could go above DS with it. I love the DS, and I think I don't know. The library of the DS. Professor Layton, Brain Age.
It's okay, 3DS is up there.
All right.
It's got you covered. If it goes above PlayStation, that's up to y'all.
Bro, if it goes above the DS, I'm arguing for 2 at this rate, just because the double dash.
I think 5. Are we good on 5?
Yeah.
Is that where you were landing, Mark, or were you saying above DS?
I was saying above DS.
Do you hate it below DS?
Doesn't feel right, but I'll allow it.
I think it goes below. I think it goes below DS. I'm going to speak up here a little bit more.
All right.
I agree.
The Wii U
goes above PS4.
Some of the best versions of these IPs ended on the GameCube.
Well, you could also make the same argument
for the Wii U.
But we could also make some of the arguments we've been making before, where like the GameCube is really just a better N64. right? So the DS was the innovation piece for the handheld. So if we're kind of sticking with some of those arguments, I think that's where it stops here.
So are we saying the DS is a better version of the GameCube?
No. I'm saying from the N64 to the GameCube is less of a leap than it is from the Advance to the DS. I say the DS is on top because it pushed a handheld.
It's a bigger leap.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We got 2 more.
Jesus Christ.
Next up, Sega Genesis.
I really have not played a lot of Genesis, to be completely fair.
Mark, what's your exposure?
I've definitely played a lot of it, even though I never owned it. I've always went over to my cousin's house and played it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be as big of a Sonic fan as I am now.
Yeah.
There are definitely, like, it has its shining moments, for sure.
Let's jump into the library.
Okay.
Echo the Dolphin. Need I say more?
I couldn't get past the beginning of that game.
No, I can't either. Still today. I tried to play it 3 months ago.
That game's a bit of a mess. I don't know if that's where you start.
No. No, this just felt like everything was so cool on the Genesis. Like, I still bought into that marketing, still buy in, still fully in it. It's just a cool...
I don't think I was ever really exposed to it as a kid. I was never really exposed to the marketing much as a kid.
I don't know why or where. I don't know. But it just, I remember it hitting the right way, and it was the thing that I ended up with. And, yeah, I don't know. I loved this era playing all the licensed games because they were just weird and fun. Like, I remember playing the Ariel Monsters game and all those Disney movie games that would come out were difficult as heck, but super fun to play. And that was the era where, like, I remember, like, if I'd see a show, I'd dream of what the game would look like and try and imagine what kind of game would come out. I don't know. I love the art style, just the general graphics on the Genesis. I'm not going to call it peak, but there's something about that era specifically that just feels right, looks right, sounds right. I know obviously Sonic is the big one, but like the stuff with like Sonic 2 and 3 specifically that really just pushed those games forward. Some of the stuff that you got in Sonic 3, the huge ambition of like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the combined package that unfortunately had to get pushed into 2 games. But like the idea behind that and the way they all came together, super cool. And then what they ended up doing with it with the lock-on cart was super neat too. But the sound, dude, like that's the thing to me that always stands out, will forever stand out. Like Genesis has such a specific sound. Like when I'm looking at game titles, I can hear them all perfectly in my head.
That's true.
I think it's just so unique. Like it's not just, it of course is the hardware, but also like the talent behind it. Like so many things from Yuzo Koshiro on that platform, like the Streets of Rage soundtracks obviously ring out. But even just like weird stuff like Vector Man, like Vector just Man, the sound design in that was really wild.
Yeah, like for me with that, it's like when done right, it sounds great, but I feel like it wasn't done right too many times. So I've heard more bad than good from their library when like games just didn't utilize the sound chip and it just sounds like a bunch of wet farts for
there's a lot of bad like third party games that licensed stuff that really did not optimize it, but the stuff that did it right.
Oh yeah, and they're still talked about today, like the ones you just mentioned for sure, like Streets of Rage alone.
Yeah,
like,
but even like remember when we played Glaylancer last year? Like that had such a banging soundtrack, all from that Genesis. I don't know. Splatterhouse 2 hit this thing. Toe Jam and Earl, which we played earlier this year, just like
Yeah.
You do not find games like Toe Jam and Earl in other places ever. Castlevania Bloodlines is on this. Sonic Spinball's got a really good soundtrack too. Mark, you mentioned Guardian Heroes on Saturn, but this was where Gunstar Heroes got its start. And
Gunstars is pretty good.
Yeah, this is where Treasure got its start after leaving Konami. All those dudes. Yeah, I don't know. This was the first console to give Nintendo a serious shake, which doesn't mean anything in the long-term history of things, but it just made such a big push in different ways.
I like the, I think at the end of the day, I like the 4 face buttons and the 2 triggers, but I like the way the A, B, and C pressed on that controller. I don't know what I liked.
Good.
I don't know what it is specifically about it. That maybe that's it. A little bit more travel time on them. They're also big. Like your whole thumb, it's bigger than your thumb, especially at that age.
Yeah, like I had tiny hands, so like it wasn't ideal, but it wasn't awful either.
I don't know. It was just something like pressing those buttons. It felt good.
Yeah.
No, me too. I remember playing a bunch of Shinobi, a lot of Simpsons games. But yeah, I remember like even getting a 6-button pad also still had the give on the ABC, but the XYZ were a little bit tighter and just contrasted a bit. It's super rad.
Also, it was in black. Nintendo was in gray.
Yeah, that's true.
But that
all right, we gotta wrap this thing. We got one more to do after this. I gotta pull nostalgia away because I'm shooting pretty high, and I know you guys aren't going to be that high.
I think Sega was more experimental, and I like that side of them. They did feel a little more daring.
Yeah.
But if we're going to compare it to like Super Nintendo, I think Super Nintendo had a better polish about things, I guess, in the end. At least console wise. I don't know. At least that's just what it feels like to me.
I'm more familiar just with the Nintendo library, though. I think if I had a little bit more time, I would, with the Genesis library, I could probably give it a little bit more fair fight. But as it currently stands, that's just where I'm at.
My gut, taking in my considerations and where I think you guys are both at, I would say it's a fair place to put this as the new number 14, below the PSP and above the PS3.
Sure.
Wow. You said below the PSP but above the PS3?
Yeah. I know I'm not going to get it above SNES for y'all. I feel like the Wii's stronger, but I think I like the PSP over it. That's where I'm kind of like, I feel like it can fit right there.
Yeah, like, I guess the way I see it, it's like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis just, they feel like equals to me. I can't really...
No, I agree.
Like, I mean, like, I grew up in a Nintendo house, but I had Sonic merch. Like...
Yeah.
You know? Like, that one IP alone was so strong for me. I mean, if that's...
You think
it feels a little low, but I can understand it.
I can put it above Wii.
See, but then we gotta talk about Wii Sports, right? It's like that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, but Wii Sports is one game at the end of the year. Think of all the junk that came out.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk on the Wii.
Man, it's not just one game though. It's not just one.
It's just one game.
It's number one.
There's 5 sports, just very well done in a very casual way. It's one game. Just it came with every Wii.
I did it. I locked it in. The new number 12. I'll give you guys your Super Nintendo. but I'm putting Sega Genesis right below it.
I feel like they got to be next to each other in some way.
I'm good with it. Our final console, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
That was the first one.
What's there to say? You know, let's just go right the rank.
It revived video games. We can start there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Atari crashed it, the Nintendo brought it back.
It got that D-pad.
If you had a decent addition of the cool Duck Hunt game.
Yeah, that's true.
Are we including Famicom in this?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that second controller had a microphone in the Famicom.
Yeah, and the NES is obviously so iconic for us in America, but I've really come to appreciate the look and feel of the Famicom. That whole design.
I agree.
Oh, I
love
think
the way the controllers.
I think the VHS is dumb, and I think it's killed more consoles than it does. I know why they did it, but in hindsight, it sucks.
Yeah, it's the 360 of the 8-bit era.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the 8-bit do Famicom controller that just came out a couple months back? It's like modern, their pro controller, but it's a Famicom theme. It's really hot. It really looking real nice.
Yeah, NES, I don't know. It hasn't aged well in my eyes. It has some good games, but it's so primitive.
No, I agree. It's funny, it's the thing I grew up with, so I always think of it as the pinnacle of gaming, right? But when you go back and you play these games, they do feel really limited compared to
just the way they were designed, back things were meant to be stupid hard, so you didn't beat it in 20 minutes and forget about it. It was brutal. It was a brutal time.
Yeah, it's just and the industry was different. The way games were developed and why they were developed was different. It totally
obviously, there's some good ones in there. Your RPGs are in there, your Final Fantasy, your Dragon Quest. You got, obviously Mario, Zelda, Metroid, whatever. But even then, some of those were still, they had their moments.
Yeah, but, all those games you just said, they have more superior entries in the next edition of the console.
Yeah. I think Super Mario Brothers 3 is better than Super Mario World, but I understand that technically.
I wasn't even thinking about maybe that could be the one about Metroid to Super Metroid.
No, but I'm saying I even recognize that Super Mario World probably objectively is better, but I think Super Mario Brothers 3 is. But no, you're right. Metroid to Super Metroid, not a shot.
It's such a huge leap too.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 4 compared to 1.
Yeah.
And then games were just poorly translated. Simon's Quest.
Yeah, that.
Matt's favorite game.
I love a lot on this platform. I really love pinball, the old NES pinball.
Yes, yeah.
One of my favorites, always was.
Even though it's rough, Tetris is...
That is still my Tetris, dude. The sound of that game, the colors,
yes.
It's so good.
But I'm so spoiled with ghost dropping and switching.
I know, yeah, it's tough. The Mario games, you had Zelda. I still think The Legend of Zelda is... I think it's still my favorite Zelda.
Wow, really?
I don't know, man. I walk around on that with different answers depending on the week, but there's just something special about that first one.
I mean, I respect that. It's a good foundation, the NES overall, but
also Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 are incredible. Still, and comparatively, I think 4 is a downgrade from where 3 ended up. I think the good progression of the Castlevania series actually went to TurboGrafx, right? When that team
I was
moved
gonna
over
say,
and made Rondo of Blood.
I was gonna say PlayStation, but yeah, that one's first.
Yeah, but yeah, no, right, and then that team, that lineage is there. I feel like the Super Nintendo one, not as good.
Yeah, no, I played 4 on the mini, and yeah, it just didn't have the same. Also, it was way too easy, which is a dumb thing to say, but like, I'm so used to getting my ass beat handed to me whenever I played a little bit of 3 when I played it.
Yeah. A lot of people like the Mega Man games. I don't really care for them.
I never.
But it's fine.
I I respect it, but I never got into it myself.
I think it's cool. You take multiple. I think the core design of that was like 9 stages, 9 bosses. Take the power, and you can do it in various orders. I think that's a cool design choice. But other than that, not necessarily.
I would hop through Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 all the time because I was so bad at them. Every time I died in game over, I'd switch the cartridge. I still liked them, even though I was awful at them. But if it wasn't for that collection that came out recently, the Cowabunga collection, I don't think I could ever go back to them.
No, I've tried. They're way too difficult. Yeah, no. I want to shout out Shadowgate for the NES. Batman the video game is solid.
That was a fun one.
So good.
That soundtrack.
Yeah. RC Pro-Am, I loved playing as a kid. Final Fantasy is still cool. I've played an English translation of Final Fantasy 3 for the Famicom. I think that's a lot of fun. There are some really cool Famicom games that we didn't get over here.
Right.
I think, yeah, I mean, the NES kind of, it didn't start at all, but as far as we're looking at,
oh yeah, right, Dr. Mario. It's on this.
Yeah. Here. Dr. Mario Ice Climber. It's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
But where does it rank?
Is it crazy for saying it's underneath the Saturn?
Dude, that's exactly where I was looking.
You're
exactly.
Wait, where's this? Dudes, I was
21?
below the Game Boy.
You were below Game Boy?
That's 25.
Yeah.
Oh, you're low. No, it has a lot. I think
there's a library here. Yeah.
It's easy to dismiss some of the stuff, but like Zelda, Metroid, Mario, Castlevania, Mega Man. There's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good arcade ports. Like the Donkey Kong arcade port's really good. Especially compared to what Donkey Kong arcade ports came before.
I mean, I'm fine. I mean, we can put it right below Saturn. I was just saying that was just my gut reaction.
I think I like it there. Not above Saturn, right? Stop. Oh. Stop. Done. There it is. All right. I'm going to read them from 30 to 1. Or do we want to split it up?
Just read it. It's already long enough.
All right. Virtual Boy, Xbox One, Game & Watch, Wonder Swan, Game Boy, Sega Master System, Sega Game Gear, NEO-GEO, AES, TurboGrafx 16, Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega Saturn, PlayStation Vita, Game Boy Color, Wii U, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, Nintendo Wii, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Number 10, Xbox, Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, Game Boy Advance, Xbox 360. Number 5, GameCube. Number 4, Nintendo DS. Number 3, PlayStation. Number 2, Nintendo 3DS. And number 1, the PlayStation 2. Huh.
We did it.
We did do it. I kind of feel like we should do something where you guys make me play something and I make you guys play Genesis games, or I don't know what to do with that, but something. We need to do some sort of pick the top 5. We'll do an hour of I don't even know.
Well, time out. We got some in the pipeline.
No, we have other plans. I know. I'm looking at other. I feel like there's some stuff on here I wish I would have explored more. There's stuff I know is good that I feel like you guys would appreciate too. But
well, yeah, I mean, can't play everything, so
true. Anyway, stay tuned, listener, for the future of our console ranking program here on the Free Cheese. And be sure to come back next week as we begin our conclusion of Season 11. With episode 536, we will start to look at the list, talk about 2023 as a whole, and got a whole great big 2 weeks planned for you. So come back next week. Thanks for hanging out and ranking some consoles with us. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening.